All right, looks like we're good to go here. Welcome tonight, everyone, to the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is show number 265, your place for Xbox talk and more on Sunday nights. You know the drill. Naturally, I'm your host, Invader, and I am rearing to go with all the topics that we have in store for you tonight. We got more updates from the Microsoft Activision deal saga, with some rather interesting third-party cloud deals announced. We shall get into that. Plus, hey, maybe we'll give our thoughts on Halo Infinite Season 3 Echoes Within. Been hearing some things about it, and you know what? I've had my hands on it, along with possibly another person on the panel, and we'll just give our thoughts. We'll give our thoughts on it. I've been seeing a lot of banter online about it, so hey, we got a comment. And hey, it's certainly looking forward to this fun chat tonight. Again, I'm always stoked, but before we do, I have to introduce everybody on the show tonight. Joining the panel tonight is a new face to the podcast scene. He's a huge Xbox fan and a budding content creator. Please welcome tonight the Pilot Winks. Buddy, how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on tonight, guys? I'm excited to get this going, talk about the topics that we have, and they're very interesting, and especially with the news and the whole buzz with ABK and Xbox and all that stuff going on with regulators. I've had a great weekend. Hope y'all had a great weekend as well, full of games. And lately I've been playing Flight Simulator, stuck in that at Hogwarts as well. But I'm ready to get this going.
All right, all right. By the way, what have you been playing recently? Anything in particular?
Honestly, I've been playing, like I said, so the Flight Simulator I've been playing. I've been addicted to just flying around and just seeing the scenery and just doing all that good stuff. But lately, I've been really stuck in Hogwarts Legacy, trying to get through that whole story, trying to get it 100%. And then I would switch in between Fallout 76 and a lot of games like that. I have a huge backlog of games, so I try to like switch in between and not spend a whole lot of time on each little one. So yeah, that's pretty much been what I've been doing.
All right. Very exciting. Like the games you picked out there, and yeah, man, I like my simulators too. Certainly.
Absolutely.
All right, love the passion, my friend. Love the passion. Moving on down here to the TXR regulars, we have Crusader, pal. Before I begin, again, happy birthday to you. Happy belated. And how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, my birthday was last Wednesday. That was good. And this last week, I played Rise, Son of Rome for the first time. Game was aight. It was alright. It was very strange. And I did beat Destiny 2 Lightfall's new raid, and I very much enjoyed the raid. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I had a good birthday week. Thank you everyone who sent me well wishes. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about some stuff tonight.
Of course, of course. I mean, hey, if you were closer, man, I'd give you some birthday beats, but you're all the way down there, unfortunately. But I'll have a drink for you. I'll have a drink for you for sure. Maybe a shot or two. Let's see here. Moving on down the list, we have Eric Shockley. Pal, how's things going at your end?
Pretty good. Just finished Hogwarts, or the main story mode, earlier today with the wife. I am super hyped about the Resident Evil 4. I found out the New Zealand flight is gonna work for those early. I was kind of upset when Dead Space didn't take the same approach and did that. Now for some reason developers or publishers are doing that lame global release where everybody has to play at the exact same minute. um, but yeah, definitely hyped to play that since my day off starts on Thursday, so it'll be perfect 4-day weekend. It's been hopefully get through all that without any spoilers. So apparently there's some new nice things that we haven't seen that they've held back. So definitely hyped for this week. But yeah, ready to get into these topics.
Yeah, me too, brother. Me too. And of course, Mr. Centurion, the man from the desert. How you doing, pal?
What is up, everybody? It's time for TXR, and it's time to have some fun. Let's think. What have I been doing? I told you guys I beat Dead Space, right? Finally.
I can't remember actually.
So.
Did you know?
Yeah, I finally beat the Dead Space remake. So I was able to finally move on and start Gotham Knights. So far I'm enjoying it. I do have some one big freaking game breaking complaint, and that is I guess since the patch in November, there has been some serious, I want to drop the F-bomb, but we know how YouTube's getting, but serious effed up frame drops, and I'm talking sometimes that thing will drop down to 1 frame a second. It's bad. When you get too many enemies on screen and the fighting is getting intense and there's environmental crap is taking place, it will have some serious frame issues. I'm a very forgiving person, but damn, I was not ready. It's already happened to me 4 or 5 times, and I've only got probably 5 or 6 hours into the game so far. So I'm hoping that they will address that, but I'm kind of shocked considering they tried to make that game run at 30 frames a second, and I'm just kind of confused. I'm like, well, damn, you guys aimed for 30 frames a second. What the hell happened? But other than that, also just kind of grinding away at ESO and probably kicking around the idea of starting Tales of Arise, but I'm just wondering if I have the time to start and finish that game before next month with Dead Island 2 and Jedi Survivor coming out. Because next month, man, that's going to be a freaking grind right there. You got 2 great games coming out, at least in my opinion. Yes.
No, you're right. Ever since the beginning of the year, I'd argue that it's been kind of tough to even pull myself away from the console because there's just that many interesting games coming out, right? So.
Oh yeah, and you had Dead Space in January, and I played that until, because I'm a completionist. I don't go for speed runs. I go for doing everything, and so I played Dead Space until Hogwarts Legacy came out, and then Hogwarts Legacy became crack, and I couldn't put that game down. I put 70 hours in that game, and I only got it to 88% done before I finally beat it. And then I went back and finished Dead Space, and now I'm just kind of trying to get at least 1 game out of my backlog before I start trying to play more games that I haven't even bought yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, hey, I'm guilty of that myself too. I probably mention it each show, but hey, it is what it is, my friend. It is what it is. All right, fellas, let's see. Right before we kick things off, just a reminder that you can find us on a bunch of different platforms. We got Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even Audible. We're everywhere, guys. Honestly, numerous places. Plus a few video sharing platforms such as Rumble. So be sure to check us out on there and many others. Just look in the description for them all. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the first topic of the night. Earlier this week, we had some announcements from Microsoft that they plan to bring Call of Duty and other PC titles to third-party cloud gaming platforms. One being Boosteroid, set up in the Ukraine, and Ubitus in Japan. Both with 10-year deals, interestingly enough. And yeah, this is going towards the Activision deal, still going through the legal processes. So obviously Microsoft, well, it looks like they want to look like the nice guy here. Now, of course, I'm curious what the panel here thinks. I know that they have quite a few things to say here and then branch off into different things, I'm quite sure. Pilot, buddy, I'll kick things off with you because I know you want to share your thoughts on this. Yeah, really, what's your take here, with Microsoft kind of announcing these deals and making the moves?
Well, I think, honestly, it's it's a good start, to try to, appease the regulators. Now, if you really like look into what these two deals were, like with the companies and everything. So Ubitus, they have like 17, partners within that gaming space, and we also know, they're from Japan. So it's like you have that little outreach there. But they were first demonstrated. They demonstrated a cloud game, back on the Xbox One with Microsoft back in 2017 with China Joy. So honestly, it's not really a surprise to me that Microsoft decided to sign a deal with them to provide games to their cloud system. And honestly, like whenever you search the whole Ubisoft thing, more than likely, given that since they are like a provider, like they provide the cloud to different companies and stuff. There's a cloud company called Game Now as well, and they're powered by Ubisoft as well. So you can expect like more Xbox titles, ABK titles, to go on like platforms like that. So, I expect to see more companies beyond that to really expand. Now, like for like Boosteroid as well, I know they have like the same business model as like XCloud. You have all these different devices and supported devices that you can go from like the TV, the phone, the computer, a tablet. And then from what I've noticed, that company is like really fast growing. They're expanding rapidly everywhere. They're especially hitting hard in the Asian market as well. And that's really a positive too, because I know a lot of like Xbox games and Xbox brand altogether aren't really that strong in that area. So honestly, with that being said, the exposure to Xbox ABK games is tremendous in the player reach and in the future with cloud technology. And I know they said about 4 million more players have been reached by these deals, and I'm sure down the line it's only going to be more. So I am speculating that Microsoft will try to see how the current 10-year deals will appease regulators as they are right now, possibly, and I'm sure they are hoping it will pass with everything that they have offered on the table. But like I said, only time will tell. And for some reason it doesn't make them happy, and they want more out of Microsoft and ABK. I'm sure they got prospective partners that they can easily sign more deals to if needed. But all in all, my opinion, it's a win-win situation for the gamers, and I'm confident Microsoft's going to do whatever they can to really push this forward to get this thing passed at the end of the day.
All right, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty awesome that they're making these deals, especially, again, it makes them look good. And I hear a lot of people kind of talking negatively about, oh, why is Microsoft making these deals? I mean, obviously they're 10-year deals. They've been making them with big companies. Obviously, they announced Nintendo and a few others, Nvidia, and a whole bunch more. Plus, again, they're going to be start announcing more deals in the near future, apparently. This is just the very beginning. But a lot of people are saying, oh, these are just small companies. What does it matter, right? Well, I mean, Xbox, they're playing nice here. They want to put it on these games on everything and everything when the deals goes through. So, I mean, yeah, you see what I'm saying here? I mean, like, it's pretty
exactly.
significant.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, really just what they're trying to do, people think that they're trying to hold it back, but they're like, no, we're going to really expand this. And we see what they're doing. The proof is in the pudding with these contracts. So, I mean, yeah, they say they're small little companies and stuff, but I mean, it's a different market that, Microsoft doesn't have access to. It's a bigger brand, that gets them to, buy the games from Microsoft. And, maybe there's other platforms that other people, or regions that you can't get to, but that's getting the reach, So, I mean, everybody's going to be opposed to something, it's not always going to be 100% like, or, whatnot. But, I don't know. I think it's a great deal, honestly. And it's only going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, hey, I agree with you on that. And Honestly, I'm loving just Microsoft being so open about this, but then again, I suppose they have to as well, just because they really want this deal to go through.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
see.
most definitely.
Yeah, no. How about you, Centurion? What do you think about this deal? I mean, do you agree with what Pilot's saying here?
Oh yeah, I agree. It's going to be a good thing for sure. Um, so this is where I always go a different perspective, purely because I'm a more business oriented person in real life, and this is where I have to laugh. Like, Sony does not want this deal to happen, does not want this game to be spread out to other companies like the ones that were named, because Sony literally, let's go back in time to that time when Phil Spencer came out and said Sony makes themselves bigger by making Xbox smaller. And they don't just keep Xbox small, they keep the game industry completely stagnated and as small as possible to drive as many customers to their ecosystem as possible. And by expanding Call of Duty to all these platforms, it's going to give consumers, gamers, whatever you want to call them, more choice to where they can game, where they feel they are more comfortable, and the access is there. And the funny part is, Michael Pachter even pointed out that right now, currently, the way to play Call of Duty over on the PlayStation is you got to go buy the PlayStation console, you got to buy the entire game, and you got to buy into their subscription service to have access to multiplayer. And over on the Xbox side, you're able to completely get around that for $15 by playing on the cloud. And we could see that not only is Xbox trying to expand the reach of Call of Duty, but they're also trying to expand the cloud network, the cloud market, because a lot of regulators, that's one of their focuses, is like, oh my God, you guys got a stranglehold also on the cloud market. And they're trying to show that they're not going to help crush the emerging cloud market. And they're going to be helping put content on some of these services that are much smaller to help grow them. And this is a great time to get into gaming, especially if you don't have the ability to afford hardware, with how cloud gaming is starting to emerge as an actual viable way of playing games without an actual console or PC. And this is one of the reasons. This is the big reason why Sony is very uncomfortable with this. I know people are trying to come out and be like, you can't say that a big corporation is scared. Well, yeah, they're scared. They're not wanting to do business. They want business to be done. Sony wants business to be done on their time, their schedule, and in the direction they want it to go. They don't want the subscription service model to become something that customers enjoy and want, because they know that if the subscription model takes hold and Microsoft gets this deal, Sony's going to have to follow suit and compete in a way they don't want to. Why do they not want their stuff in a subscription model? Because their subscription model actually has a smaller profit margin. They want people going to that PlayStation store and buying the game outright. I know Activision doesn't get 30%. PlayStation doesn't get 30% from Activision like they do for most of the stuff that's sold on their store. I know Activision has a sweeter deal where they don't get the full 30% taken from them. But let's just say right now, hypothetically, PlayStation gets 20% of all the transactions that take place with Call of Duty. And by some chance, if it goes into they have to put it into their subscription service because Microsoft gets the deal and they now have to deal with Call of Duty being in Game Pass. Well, now they have to put it in PS Now. Now, what if PS Now only generates a 10% profit margin, at least on the stuff from like the game and stuff like that? And yeah, you might be able to make up for that with consumers buying like cosmetic packs and other stuff. But PlayStation does not want to lose that main source of revenue, and that is from the actual sale of the game. And that this is why they don't want their games as a service thing that Microsoft has been pushing to become a mainstream thing for the gaming industry. And yeah, that's not working out too well for Sony. I mean, we all saw in some of those CMA documents that it almost looks like a lot of developers are starting to come out and talk about how Sony has treated them over the years. I know we'll talk about that later.
I mean, no. You do bring up a lot of valid points there, Centurion, and it is interesting Sony getting called out by. Well, I mean, there is at least one company, anyways, but we can dive into that a little more. Well, in a little bit, anyways. Let's see. Eric Shockley. I'm curious your thoughts here. What do you think about these deals going on here? I mean, obviously Microsoft wants that Activision deal to go through, but I guess they got to play nice with the regulators, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's another smart move on their part, just to add to the pile of, hey, we have all these 10-year deals signed by basically anyone that's even remotely involved in the industry. So at that point, if it does, and probably if and when it goes to court in these different regulating, countries, at that point they're going to be, if it comes down to like, a judge deciding like, what's fair, whose case goes through, they're going to look at them like, hey, only one company out of like all the pretty much anybody, it's the only one that's kind of left. I don't think there's anybody else other than Sony right now that's really against it, outside of probably like Google and Apple, who are already gigantic, tech giants. And this also kind of gets to what some of the regulators that were kind of iffy and like scared about them basically having a monopoly in the cloud space. Whereas now they've signed these deals with NVIDIA and now this new one, was it Boosteroid? That's the name? I was trying to remember.
Yeah, there's Boosteroid in the Ukraine and Ubitus in Japan.
So at this point, it's kind of showing their willingness of like, hey, especially some of a couple ones that we haven't heard of, like these two most people probably aren't that familiar with. They're willing to play ball and pretty much, be very open with like, hey, if it's basically we want it on every type of cloud service there is. So I wonder if Google Stadia was still around, if this would like also help their case. I don't know. Actually, that might hurt it because Google probably would be poo-pooing the idea, and then that would just be another roadblock. But depending on if they had, I can't remember what games or if they even had Call of Duty on Google Stadia to begin with. But yeah, I think it's just another feather in their cap. It's showing their willingness to, because you thought with Microsoft the way they're going to go is like, hey, they're jumping out on this cloud thing, and then Google kind of went out of the way, because they kind of gave up on Stadia, and it's like, and it looked like, hey, it's not a monopoly, but like for the most part, especially if this deal were to go through early on, like before they started like making these deals with NVIDIA and a few of these other companies, that could be dangerous where they have Call of Duty on their cloud service. They're the only cloud subscription that's going to have this, and it's going to be like their day one. That could be huge, and I could see where that could be competition-wise. If it's the only subscription cloud-based service that has it, that could be dangerous. But I think they're very open to just making sure Call of Duty's pretty much everywhere. But we'll have to see, how it's going to work out. I think they've also, I don't know if we knew of it last weekend or last podcast, about the whole, like, their willingness to put it on, like, PS Plus, which, if you have PS Plus Premium, you also have cloud. So their willingness to also, like, if it comes down in front of a judge, what are you, how are you going to make the argument of like, hey, we're willing to put it on your cloud service, make you a ton of money, and at the end of the day, like, hey, we're giving you a 10-year deal. And I know a lot of people have gotten too Twitter going back and forth recently this week about the whole. I think it was that Reforge Gaming video that everybody's been tweeting around with the whole
No one
like
should
if
talk about him.
If BK bought Coke and then gave McDonald's a worse deal than what they had, and I'm like, but ABK came out and said they actually were offering a better deal than they would have ever got with Activision. So, and people were saying no, they have a deal in perpetuity, and I'm like, that doesn't exist, because they keep just saying like, well, if they didn't get bought by Microsoft, they would. There's no way they would ever, not go on PlayStation. Sure, but by that same token, if this deal didn't go through, Microsoft could say, okay, screw you, Sony, you screwed this giant ass deal for us. Cool. Well, there's nothing stopping us after your deal is done with ABK to go in there and be like, hey, cool, release it on PlayStation. We're not going to take that away, but we're going to screw you over by giving Activision a shit ton of money and making a Game Pass deal. There's nothing to stop them from like still screwing you over. So people saying that they have a deal in perpetuity, they don't. It's so a 10-year deal is better access than a 2-year deal. Like you don't have guaranteed access, even if you're the juggernaut in the industry. Well, actually, you're the juggernaut in that sector, but as we see, Microsoft is a gigantic company that can swing for the fences way further. So they could. It's not likely, but they could go in there and disrupt it. So when that 2-year deal or whatever that they have with ABK is not better than the 10-year deal that Microsoft is offering. That's just factually untrue. But a lot of people in the PlayStation community keep saying the opposite. I'm like, then we're not in the same reality, because we literally don't exist. Same world. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh no! I just it was
Well,
no. I was just agreeing with you though. Like it is kind of weird that I mean, obviously Sony wants to fight this tooth and nail, so maybe it isn't so weird. But at the same time, Microsoft has been very talkative with all these companies. They've spoken to all the big ones, and they've gotten a lot of big deals out of the way. But Sony doesn't want to have any of it. Sony doesn't want to talk. I mean, for example, Xbox, Microsoft, they've talked to Valve. Valve doesn't want to sign a deal from what I understand, but they just they're trusting Microsoft on their word that they'll do what they say, which is good enough for them right now.
And I don't think Sony's afraid of, as far as like, hey, this is really going to hurt us, but it is going to probably make Microsoft a lot more competitive with them than how it currently stands, especially if a lot of that content does go into Game Pass, and it just makes it more value. So even if they don't see really that much of a dip in their initial like Call of Duty like sales, they still might be taking a little bit more piece of the pie, or get a little closer to console sales. Maybe that does sway a lot of Xbox One S's that are going for $150 on Verizon. Maybe that sways a little bit to where when Sony makes these same deals with Final Fantasy and stuff like that, where they keep games off of Xbox, then maybe that's harder to fund some of those deals, because they got to pay up a lot more, because now we're like, well, hey, in the biggest economy in the world, you're either tied or losing. Who knows how this could kind of swing that. So I'm sure it could, affect how dominant they are. So obviously they're going to be against it 100%. There's no way they would be for it, as we can kind of see what's going on. So,
to kind of throw on what shot, this is going to hurt Sony, but it's not going to be like an intentional hurt. It like, Michael Pachter mentioned it on how Netflix completely hurt the video content industry when it came to films and movies and television, because he pointed out, he's like, before Netflix, the average consumer would go out and spend X amount of dollars a year on movies, rentals, and going to the movie theaters. And then Netflix came in and said, hey, you can get all that for $15 a month. And Microsoft is coming in and saying the same thing. And that's where he's like, look at how cable and satellite providers were affected by the existence of Netflix. He's like, Game Pass is going to hurt the gaming industry, but it's not going to hurt it for consumers. It's going to hurt it for competitors. And those competitors that do not learn how to adapt in an evolving market because the consumers have made their choice. They would love a service that helps save them money, especially right now when inflation and other economic crap is getting out of control. And here's company B trying to keep it as the sacred garden. Please spend $70 every single time for a game. All this other, basically, it's a much more expensive way of gaming, and it's not going to work for them. And I've always like kind of used as an example the Attitude Era between WWE and WCW back in the day, when we saw how these wrestling companies were trying to tradition, and people were not tuning in for tradition. But then when you had these guys that were coming out there being very edgy, breaking the mold, like the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin, all of a sudden people were like, hey, now that's different. And it evolved the wrestling industry, or at least the wrestling entertainment industry. And that's the same thing that's going on right now, on how Game Pass has basically changed the direction of the gaming industry and how business is evolving. And Sony is still trying to halt that, and it's not working out too well for them. And now this is where Sony is going to have to change their business model from the preferred way of doing things to a way that they don't want to do things. And if they don't learn how to adapt with that, yeah, it's going to frickin' hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's an ever expanding, engrossing industry. You know, the tech is constantly changing, and these companies need to get with the times. I mean, you look at Microsoft. Microsoft is heavily invested in cloud gaming going forward. One of the key players in it, mind you. And Sony, while they have invested in it, they haven't done as much with it as Microsoft. Microsoft just, I don't know, Microsoft just seems to be going like with a multi-pronged kind of attack when it comes to the gaming sphere, whether it be again traditional gaming, whether it be subscription services, and then cloud gaming. I'm not saying I'm the biggest cloud user, but again, it's nice to have. Well,
Sony was one of the first console manufacturers to ever implement cloud gaming. We all saw that with the original PS Now before what it turned into what it is now.
Yeah, because it was Gaikai, right? Or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was on Gaikai.
Yeah.
And the thing is that's really sad is Sony did not create that cloud service as a pro-consumer idea. They actually created that as an anti-consumer idea to paywall backwards compatibility.
But remember, that's organic growth. Right? Sorry, I've been seeing a lot of organic growth talk recently, and I'm just kind of sick of it.
I know, but I mean, like, that just totally shows you the two total differences in mentality between the two companies. PlayStation wanted cloud gaming as a way of generating more revenue for themselves, and Xbox approached it as, well, this is going to make us a lot of money, yes, but it's also going to be a very pro-consumer way for people to consume gaming. And so it was like a win-win for Microsoft, where Sony's idea of cloud gaming had no benefit to the consumer whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. How about you, Crusader? What are your thoughts on, again, these announcements with Boosteroid and Ubitus? I mean, I'll admit, like, when they announced these, I'm like, who are these guys? I mean, apparently in Japan, Ubitus is big. I'm not familiar with them, but please give me your thoughts.
I knew both of them going in because I find this space really interesting. Ubitus in particular is a fairly big cloud provider for the cloud Switch titles. For like the titles that are released that are cloud only on Switch, like the Kingdom Hearts trilogy, I believe, was released as cloud only on Switch. Control, I believe, was cloud only. I believe those are both through Ubitus. So a lot of those games are through Ubitus. So like that deal alone makes sense to put Call of Duty on that, because again, I genuinely believe until we have a Switch successor that Call of Duty is going to come to the Switch in a cloud fashion. Because Nintendo seems to be fine with that from third-party vendors. And with Boosteroid has the same business model as GeForce Now. the NVIDIA solution, and so you can play games that if you own the titles, you can play them. You're basically renting a cloud computer that you can play specific titles that you own. It has to be licensed titles that like Boosteroid has like a license to distribute, but it's not like neither are really like the traditional or I say traditional. Neither of them are the Game Pass model of like cloud gaming where you get access to a library of games that you don't own and can play. Both of them are they either act in the background as cloud providers for companies directly like Ubitus does, or they are they provide you access to your library on a cloud computer. And both of those deals just are kind of like Microsoft doesn't lose anything by signing these deals like in any way. And the most important thing is both of them were named as cloud competitors in both the EU and the UK. The whatchamacallit that they did, the reviews that they did, the competition reviews. And so they're signing deals with the people that have that were named as competitors in the competition reviews. And they've specifically signed deals with ones that make a smart business sense to actually partner with, because they compete, but in a sense that they both offer video game, like a method to play video games. They don't quite compete in like the same 100% direct way. The only people we've seen Microsoft offer the deal to in that way is Nintendo, Sony, Steam, and PlayStation, right? And Nintendo accepted the deal, PlayStation didn't, Steam didn't, but they didn't in a negative way. They just said that the deal wasn't necessary. And overall, these deals are very important because they answer direct regulator concerns. I expect to see, honestly, Epic Games as another group to have a deal signed in the next couple weeks. I wouldn't be shocked to hear that they're going to bring the Xbox and Activision Blizzard King library to Epic Games when the deal closes. And that's the other thing with these deals that was a little bit different from the NVIDIA deal. The NVIDIA deal was a little bit more overarching than these two, because with NVIDIA, Xbox and Bethesda titles are coming regardless of the deal closing, right? Xbox and Bethesda are just going to be available on NVIDIA's GeForce Now, regardless, as soon as they have it worked out. With Ubitus and Boosteroid and Nintendo, the deals are contingent on the actual Activision Blizzard King transaction closing, which is a little different. So like the NVIDIA one is actually even bigger in that regard. But these are direct answers. They were companies that were directly listed, I believe, in the CMA's response, because we don't get the public version of what the UK of what the EU was concerned about, but we do get the UK, the CMA's things. And these two companies were both listed as key players in the cloud space, which makes sense because the cloud space is very it's very new, very fresh, very it's in its infancy, and so you're not going to have heard a lot of the companies because we're in basically like the startup era of a lot of these companies, and having them, and it is more than just Call of Duty. A lot of people are saying, oh, they're bringing Call of Duty to these things. No, they're actually bringing all Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard King games to these companies except for Nintendo. Nintendo's the odd one out, but NVIDIA, Boosteroid, and Ubitus, they said that they're bringing everything that they reasonably can. There's some titles that, are like locked on the Xbox 360 that they can't reasonably bring. But basically anything that's on PC will be reasonably brought to these services over time. And that's a bigger deal because Microsoft is not just showing that they're not just forcing the linchpin on Call of Duty, because they've been trying to not force a linchpin around Call of Duty. Their whole argument has been that the deal's not just about Call of Duty. So they're trying to make a bigger case here in saying we're not just giving Call of Duty, we're going to give all of our content. And that's a bigger deal. No one should be upset that they're giving all of their content either. It doesn't matter. It's already on PC. It's just another way to access PC titles. Who cares? It's just a way to answer regulator concerns as to the access to these games. I don't think these deals would have been signed if the regulators hadn't have been concerned, and that is genuinely an actual good thing out of this. So long as the deal gets closed, this is like the best case scenario that consumers could have asked for, because it's just wider availability in more ways among more services for more content, and that's generally a very good thing, especially considering this content is already kind of just available, and we're just adding it to services that let you access the content you own in more ways at this point. And so yeah, and like Invader said earlier, they said that there's going to be, over the next few weeks, more deals signed. I kind of really expect an Epic Games deal to be signed. I expect a reiteration from Valve that they don't want a deal, or that they've came up and signed a it's a 1-year deal with an explanation as to why they only wanted a 1-year deal. Because Valve's specific thing was that they trust Microsoft, but also they don't believe in long form publishing deals, because most publishing deals are only 1 to 3 years. Most publishers re-sign their publishing deals every 1 to 3 years with the platforms they release content on. And so I expect to hear from Epic. And there's a lot of other small distributors that we'll probably hear from. And it does look like the EU is more focused, at least the EU in particular, is more focused on cloud gaming now. It seems that they've actually kind of dropped their concerns over the console space, which is interesting. And that they're more focused on the nascent cloud market, which, to be fair, is probably the actual biggest area of concern that Microsoft could be considered a potential, I don't want to say monopolizer of, but like that exceptional growth in with how they have their cloud infrastructure already set up, that they could ultimately dominate this market. So seeing that, the regulators are basically pushing them into a state that says, hey, you kind of have to play fair game with the other cloud providers is a good thing. It's a very good thing. So overall, I'm very pleased with with those deals. They were from someone who follows these kind of things. It was very, very good to see personally.
Yeah. I mean, I had to look a little more into these companies myself, but obviously, you, as you had stated earlier, you were keeping tabs on the space a lot more. But yeah, it was really eye-opening that they've been doing these deals with, again, I don't want to say that these are minnows by any means, these companies, but at the same time, I mean, in comparison to like a lot of these big publishers, some of these names, I'm like, who are these guys? But it does make sense why they want to do this, and I'm happy to see Microsoft playing nice with them. It's also, hey, it's very much in their favor to do so with the regulators. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's in store the next coming weeks. You brought up a good point there, Crusader. Yeah, well, let's see Epic. I want to see Epic Games make a statement. Maybe Valve can come out with a statement of their own. And who knows, maybe a few others, right? I'm just kind of forgetting some big publishers off the top of my head. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if, again, maybe Ubisoft might say something if they haven't already, and maybe a few others. But we shall see. It's definitely a global thing, though. I mean, again, you got companies from the Ukraine, Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more cloud gaming companies from various regions chime in Microsoft's favor and make more of these deals. But hey, we'll see. Now, it's interesting because, again, you had brought up the CMA, Crusader. The UK's CMA did release anonymous statements from gaming companies.
Yes.
and most of them seem to be in favor of the deal, and some interesting things were said. There was 4 of them, I believe, on the record, but actually no, there was more than 4. But like,
there was 6 released.
Yeah.
A few of one of them wasn't anonymous. It was Sony's. I mean, it was anonymous, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
Based on language, you can all out confirm that it was them. It might not even have, that one might not even have been anonymous. I don't know. The most interesting one was the one that ended up saying that there was a sore need of competition between the 2 makers, and that this would level the playing field. It was probably the biggest statement within within the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stretches on both on both some of the publisher side, and there were some wild stretches from Sony's side. But yeah, they were very interesting documents to read. I recommend anyone go out and read snippets of it. I'm not sure if I know Hogue is back. Did Hogue cover that? I wasn't actually.
I really don't know. I really don't know. Centurion, you watch Hogue, right? Do you know?
I think I'm not sure if he covered this one.
Okay.
I know he's taking it pretty slow because you know,
obviously.
Like, for those who didn't know, Richard Hogue, awesome guy, does virtual legality. He had a stroke, and he's learning to talk again. And he's making amazing headway. And I mean, like, every time he comes on, I try to listen to him, but I also do know that he is pacing himself right now because he doesn't want to do anything to cause his body any more stress than what it's been through.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they are definitely. I'm if he hasn't, I'm pretty sure he will soon. I should probably go check his channel to see if he has, but I've also been busy this week. I mean, but I got to read the documents. They're definitely a good read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he released a video on the 11th, and I had assumed that was that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll have to dive into it myself if that's the case. But
yeah, the overall it was the ones that were released were, except for the one that was SIE, were very much in Microsoft's favor, very much. It's hard to really gauge like anything from the CMA directly from this, but you can see that a lot of publishers do want the deal to go through. Now, there might be a little bit of kind of more fiscal reasons for a lot of these companies to be in support of it, rather than just they think it will be good for the industry. These companies getting bought up makes all of the companies themselves worth more, right? Because if companies are selling, then people are buying, and if people are buying, then you want to have yourself evaluated as much as possible. And so the more things that sell, the more you can boost up your own value in the marketplace. And so, to an extent, there might be a reason to support this deal from their company's standpoint, because it will increase their own company's value. But that's also a very good thing in a competitive sense, that these companies are going to be valued more because things are selling. Well, that's a good thing for us as consumers. I think this deal's a great thing as a consumer, because I just want the freaking games on Game Pass. But you know, so and a lot of them did bring, you know, they were saying like, hey, we would like this deal to go through because, you know, it will make the 2 console companies work harder. Essentially, you know, so if Sony wants to make a deal for PS Plus, then they're going to have to shell out more money, and that's more money that the publishers are making. And yeah, that's not as good for PlayStation, and that's again why PlayStation's against the deal, because the fiduciary responsibility of their company would be to be against the deal. But for a lot of the independent, and I put independent in quotes because I'm talking even some of the larger ones like Ubisoft, EA, they are independent of a first party, right? They're not owned by an actual platform. They may make out with this deal pretty well, because if there's more first-party platforms that are competitive with, like hyper-competitive with each other, like neck and neck competitive with each other, then their content might be worth more on the services. They might be able to sell more if there's a little bit, if windows for releases change a little bit. And if like Sony and Microsoft have to act strategically against each other, that may open up some certain windows for other people to release things. And that's very good for a lot of those companies. So they have lots of reasons to be pro Activision Blizzard King deal. So it was very interesting to read those deals.
Mm-hmm.
Or the what they said.
Oh no, the statements are very interesting. I had to look through them. Very revealing, actually, very revealing. I'll even get to a comment by one dev. It was very interesting. Pilot Pal, I don't know if you were keeping up to date on these things. I mean, I know that you are pretty up in the news, but what do you think about the CMA's release? Like from these statements from the companies, have you seen them at all? Because to me, they're pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, actually, as soon as they were published, I actually gave it all a read, and it seemed like it was very positive, even though most of them were anonymous, which I kind of understand for like a business standpoint, but it would have been nice if they would kind of put themselves forward to kind of reveal who they were, and maybe it would make a bigger impact. But as far as like the one that was negative, I mean, we kind of already know who the black sheep in the game industry is, right? So so I just wish that the regulators would really take that into consideration, and just put that forward. And the deal is huge. I mean, they got what 2.1 million or more documents that they requested that Microsoft sent over, and they're just looking and trying to dig in to find something and a reason to really reject the whole deal, and they're looking for something they can't find. And like you said, it's very revealing, and a lot of people, even probably more than we think, and more that even has came out, is even more behind that deal than we really think. And I really think Sony, they have a really big problem with it as well, because like as soon as it gets approved, where's those marketing rights going to go? They won't have those marketing rights anymore. So it will give the perception, people are going to think, well, hey, Call of Duty is not going to be the home of PlayStation anymore, but they'll still have the access, So I know that's definitely going to hurt them as well. But I mean, the only thing we can really do is just see, where it goes. And I just wish that they, would just get it passed through already. There's so much positivity to it, and people even say it themselves, and these documents just reveal it,
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. There was actually one studio that was not anonymous, and that was 4J Studios up in the UK. 4J. Yeah. They're they've worked on Minecraft ports, I believe, and a few other things.
I think they did the original 360 port.
I believe so. Yes. And they were very complimentive from what I remember in their statement. They didn't see any problem going forward. They seem to like it. They seem to back Microsoft there. There was an interesting statement though that I found. Sony was called out by one company, stating that PlayStation platforms have grown stagnant due to bigger games getting attention. Sony gives preferential treatment to like studios and publishers that spend lots of money on paid marketing, which I mean, I do understand paid marketing, right? I mean, hey, that's a part of the business, and certain games get highlighted more. I do understand. But it's interesting that a developer would go out of their way to mention this, because it just, I don't know. To me, it seems like this dev and maybe a few others might be frustrated, like being a small indie studio, maybe middle tier, and they're not getting that much exposure on the PlayStation Store. So maybe Microsoft is better in that way. I mean, I see all kinds of different indie games, all like just games from various genres. They always pop up on my, in different advertisements, even when I go to the store. Hell, even in the sales, I see all kinds of bloody sales on for that. But yeah, and I agree in the chat. That's, hey, sounds like business. I agree. But you got some studios here that are taking an issue with how Sony kind of distributes how the games are seen. They're seeing it as an issue. Centurion Pal, I mean, I'd love to know your thoughts. I mean, obviously the CMA, the UK. We've been getting more information here. What's your thoughts on these statements coming from these companies?
All right. So the comment business is business. Then the funny part is about that, then you probably feel that it is okay for the YouTube community, these great, awesome content creators that make amazing content have no way of ever contacting YouTube when their stuff is DCMA'd or other things go on with their channel because they're not big enough to warrant having access to somebody that can help them over at YouTube because their channel's too small. And it makes you feel kind of like, second class, third class, like you're not worth it, even though you technically make their platform have strength because your content is on it. You're creating content for them. And that's the same thing over at PlayStation. These developers, these independent developers are not rolling in cash. Let's look at the developer for Cuphead. They had to finance their house. They had to put a bank lien on their house to get Cuphead across the finish line. If that game did not turn out the success it was supposed to be, they would have lost their home. And that is how much so some of these independent developers really don't have a leg to stand on financially sometimes. And Sony actually charges anywhere from $25,000 all the way up to $200,000 for you to eat, just to have access to somebody you could pick the phone up and talk to them. And to make it even worse, Sony, you have actually no realistic way of getting a hold of this person. From developers that I've read articles from, you have to be smart enough to schedule a 1 month meeting, basically a meeting with this individual every month, just to be able to have communication between you and PlayStation that month. And if by some chance you miss that meeting, you're like screwed for that whole month, because getting a hold of your representative over at PlayStation, if you're afforded one, is extremely difficult from what it sounds like. And that's where I had to laugh when I saw these articles pop up again, because we saw this in 2020. We also saw it in 2021. It started in 2020 with Mike Rose, one of the big guys over at the publisher No More Robots, Descenders. He went out on Twitter and showed on a video that there was no way to find Descenders on the PlayStation Network store unless you searched the word Descenders. You had to know the game came out. You had to know what you were looking for. There was no other way to find that game. Over on Xbox, there is a tile. There is a section for independent games. There's Game Pass. It's easier to get your game into a sale. Apparently over on PlayStation, you have to be invited to have your game on sale. You're not even allowed to discount your own game on PlayStation. You have to get a hold of PlayStation and ask them permission to discount your own game. That sounds like, you always go online and you see all these people that are mad that have homeowners associations telling them how high their grass should be, or when their trash cans are allowed to be, or what color they can paint their damn house. But for some reason, it's completely acceptable for PlayStation to dictate to a developer whether or not they're allowed to discount a game that they did not even make. But, and then finally in 2021, we saw another developer come out and put a big rant from the publisher Neon Doctrine about how his frustrations with how PlayStation treats smaller independent developers. And we've seen that, yes, Microsoft does charge for marketing on the store, but Microsoft's basically relations department with these developers is not as closed off as Sony's. We've seen Microsoft, we even have the ID at Xbox. There is a lot more focus on the whole breadth of gaming over on the Xbox side. It's not just these, let's focus on big ass AAA titles that are just bangers. How did that work out for Forspoken? The game that like all of a sudden has been swept under the rug, all this marketing, Sony threw all this money down on an exclusive this and all this other crap, and that game literally flopped. And I'm not trying to say that as a negative, but it is what it is. It happened. And Microsoft that is why they have always been very inclusive in trying to get everybody to be spotlighted, because you cannot guarantee that a game is going to be a barn burner every single time. Look what happened with Cyberpunk. Microsoft put a lot of money into Cyberpunk advertising, and I'm pretty sure they made a lot of money off that. And that game totally freaking just fell on its face when it was launched. But Microsoft didn't have their entire platform revolve around a AAA experience. They have been supportive of independent AA and other various forms of gaming all over on the store. And this is why developers are wanting Microsoft to actually be able to compete harder with PlayStation, because not only it basically feels like PlayStation is like almost like an industry bully, which is why a lot of these developers wanted to stay anonymous, because they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot and literally be cut off from an ecosystem that has over 100 million consoles sold, is how they're always bragging about it. And that, like, why would you want to affect the financial stability of your company by just being honest? So by being able to remain anonymous, they don't have to worry about that. But I mean, it's great to see that developers are starting to come out and speak against some of the things that Sony has been saying. I'm glad you brought up 4J Studios. The big thing that 4J Studios brought up, though, really poked a hole in one of Sony's arguments, and like, oh, well, Call of Duty is going to have bugs and optimization issues, and Microsoft's going to concentrate on making sure that the game runs best on Xbox, and they're not going to really work too hard or put their best engineers to fix it on our platform. When 4J Studios came out and said that Microsoft actually pushed them and asked them to create the Mario pack for the Mario platform version of Minecraft. So Microsoft, right there, it proves that Microsoft actually wants to embrace other platforms, and that they have no problem pushing their developers to actually create content that highlights that platform and just doesn't make it seem like the best place to play is on Xbox every damn time, which has led a lot of these letters, these anonymous letters that came out, where they talked about how Xbox has been very honest, fulfilling contract obligations. They're trustworthy. They're very easy to work with. It was nothing more than positive statements from the majority of these developers. And then I loved how one developer came out and just flat out just slammed the CMA with a question. What happens if you blow this deal? What do you want, 10 cents to get them? How do you think that's going to work out for the UK consumers if by some chance an Eastern company comes in and swoops up Activision, and then basically now neither PlayStation or Xbox have an edge over what Tencent can do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was just some great points there, Centurion. Yeah, no, interesting take. Shockley, brother, do you agree with what the guys are saying here, or do you have anything to add unique to your viewpoint? Obviously, we're talking about the UK's CMA releasing these anonymous statements. Have you had a chance to go through them? And if so, what are your thoughts? Not sure if you're muted there, Eric. I want to take a look at that. Let's see. What's good, everybody in the chat? Got some really cool people here. Dreadpool just showing up. We got Thimber, DeGeeky Nerd. Lots of really cool people. I saw Dots here earlier. Dots, brother, how you doing? Yeah, guys, I don't know. Guys, do you have anything else to add? I know Shockley's silent at the moment. Anything else to comment before we move on to another topic? Yes, no?
Yeah. Just quick. I guess thinking real quick. So if Stadia was, say still around and they're alive and these deals were coming out, do you guys think that it's a possibility that Microsoft would probably try to approach them like, hey, we got this 10-year deal, would you sign it? But then given that it is Google, and do you think they would be against it or for it? What would you think if that scenario was a thing?
Interesting question.
So they would definitely offer Call of Duty. I don't think they'd offer everything, only because Stadia operated off of a Linux, a modified Linux operating system,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not nearly as simple as getting it up and running. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I don't think you'd see anything more than Call of Duty really being offered. Maybe a few other select titles would be offered, like multiplayer ones. Would Google be for it? Google is such a hard company to predict anything about, like at all, because they never stick with anything. Stadia is just one item in a long line of canceled products that Google half-assed. Like Google Glass, Google, what was the Google social media? Google Plus, I think it was.
Yes.
Like, did they just recently kill Google Music?
No idea. There seems to
Basically,
be... Yeah.
there's so few products at Google that actually last. Like, Google itself obviously did. Gmail obviously did, and Google Docs is probably one of their most successful things. But so few products at Google actually last that I honestly couldn't tell you what Google would actually where we would actually be with Google with Stadia, because who knows?
Right.
Like, it's hard to see a world where Stadia survived in the way that they pitched it originally, because it had a horrendous business model, because it was a subscription on top of you had to purchase the game, and you couldn't play the game you purchased literally anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it was very locked in.
It was an awful subscription model, or an awful service model, and it's really hard to say what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
And got it. So pretty much given that, it probably wouldn't have saved them anyways.
Yeah, no. So the cool thing about Google Stadia is that it is kind of living on. They have transformed it into a tool for developers. Bungie, a lot of Bungie devs are credited with saying that like they all used Stadia, a special SKU of Stadia, to actually develop the game from home. Like during COVID.
Oh yeah.
And so that's how Stadia is actually living on. It's becoming a development tool.
Gotcha.
That Google is offering to studios. So I could see some kind of partnership there, maybe, but I couldn't tell you. It's such a Google's such a mess.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame too, because like I didn't like their model at all as well, Crusader, but they did have some really interesting games being developed. The Quarry was one of them, and then High on Life. High on Life was a deal, a game that was picked up by Xbox, which was kind of surprising, but I liked it. I mean, I liked that game. The Quarry.
Kojima's next game, wasn't that supposed to be?
Yeah, but they've denied that they ever had a deal going with Kojima. So it was believed that it was only pitched to them, and they actually said no. But the Kojima thing is a whole lot of like, who knows? I would love to hear the whole story of him pitching that Cloud title.
Yeah, because we were hearing things, right? We were hearing things like, oh yeah, Kojima and Stadia, yeah, they're working on this cloud-based game, blah blah blah. And then once that was canned, Xbox, behind the scenes was, courting Kojima, and they were gonna start working on that title. But apparently, this title is a brand new one in itself. So
Yeah, from what I understand, what he was working on with Stadia was like a prototype, and they didn't go anywhere past the prototype. And and so everyone thought they had a deal, but like the deal never actually like solidified past him prototyping something for them. There's a whole lot of, and that's one of the things that I hate about the industry being so secretive, is that there are all these things, and we just will never know because the industry keeps everything. They act like they're the NSA.
Yeah, it's the gaming industry is very, very interesting to say the least. And I would love to know. I would love to read a book on what happened there. Oh man,
Yeah.
it must be very revealing. Shockley, buddy, now that I hear you, did you get a chance to look at the CMA's released anonymous statements? Obviously, we've been going over the statements here, what other gaming companies said. Well, what are your thoughts on what they've been saying?
Yeah, I had a brief look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of adding to how like openness, that Microsoft's been as far as like really supportive. I remember here's a lie that if you want to pin Phil Spencer on, he said, and Cuphead would never go to PlayStation, which obviously is not true anymore. But like even their willingness to they locked that down because of their involvement and investment in that IP. But even then, that was one of their probably brightest stars that they had all in the Xbox One generation. And even that one, they, for the good of that IP, instead of just holding it to their own and the good of the developers that made it, and did like Centurion mentioned before, leverage their house, let them go, and get even more fans on PlayStation, pretty much putting that game everywhere, and letting that grow. Now we know it has a show on, I think, Netflix, and there's plenty of, other memorabilia for that game. So it's just kind of that whole openness where, again, that's just going to be adding to even further when this inevitably goes to court. Like, you have so many developers that are in their favor. Obviously, that was not the case in like the aughts when a lot of the developers were saying they were too hands-on. Like I remember when they took, thinking of the Psychonaut devs for a second, just blinking. But
Double fine.
even they were skeptical. I forget the head guy's name for some reason. It's blanking me now.
Tim Schafer. Yeah,
Tim Schafer. Even like because he's worked with Microsoft before, and that didn't go too well on the first Psychonauts, because they actually had to get finished. They got dropped mid development and had to get picked up by, I think, Majesco to finish off the game. And so obviously he was skeptical to come back to Microsoft, but they said, hey, you can take a tour, talk to the other developers that we've have joined the team. And he obviously I think he went over to Ninja Theory and a few others, and was like, okay, I guess maybe things have changed, and you've kind of seen everything grow from that. And developers pretty much, I don't think there's been a one to badmouth them since those 360 days when they kind of have that whole negative light on them of whenever they had to deal with like a first part or second party deal or third party deal, that you would hear negative stuff coming out. I think even during the Gears of War days, like in the first, I remember seeing some of the promotional stuff of that where they actually filmed themselves, but they were like heavily like involved in like scrutinizing like some of that development and making sure it's like going exactly their way. And Gears of War obviously was going to be their big IP to launch the console, but they were like really a lot more hands-on and not just letting the developers just kind of it's their baby, it's their vision, let them do what they do best. So they're pretty openness. They're gonna, let you go off and make your, if bleeding edge doesn't work out, maybe grounded, something that seemed like it was another in that line of vein of game where it was like, what type of game is this? Is this just like gonna peter out like how bleeding edge unfortunately did? And we've seen that kind of grow. Same thing with like Sea of Thieves taking new ideas. They're willing to definitely just take the investment in some of these smaller projects that some grow into definitely big hits. So they're willing to take those risks, which is good, especially for this industry where it seemed like everything was just getting back to just making the safe bet and not taking some of these risks, because we kind of lost that in the PS2 days where you had all those different types of not just $50 games that were full price, but you had like those $30, $40 games that were kind of like AA. You had a lot more of those going on during that time, and like some of them in the 360 area. And then it seemed like it just kind of got even more closed down as EA was shutting down Dead Space devs. And they took on more devs, but then they would shut down some of those. And we saw with Activision how we had the Tony Hawk get re-released with that remake, and then they went off to make Call of Duty. So it just seemed like everything was kind of getting shrunk, even though the gaming market is ginormous now. But as far as the developers, it just kind of seemed like it was going the opposite direction. So it's definitely good to see them just throwing their money around in the right direction as far as definitely giving devs a chance. And I think that's where definitely Game Pass is definitely helping the industry. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But,
no, certainly there, Eric. Yeah, again, this ever-evolving scenario with Microsoft acquiring ABK, it's lingering, guys, but we keep getting some various bits of news. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I know we're all waiting for this to close, but this is the motions that Microsoft just has to take. Again, it is such a large deal that these kinds of things just have to happen. Lots of scrutiny, and hey, just got to do what they got to do. So just give it time. Hopefully, won't be too much longer before everything is official, and we can get all those sweet Activision Blizzard games onto Game Pass. But yeah, guys, before we move on to our next topic, we got a lot of wonderful people in the chat and lots of really cool listeners. Guys, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like button if you're enjoying the conversation. And of course, sub to the channel if you're new, because we would love to have you stay here and share this out. Let everybody know that we are live. Get it out there. Get on the blowhorn, guys. Let everybody know. Now, I know somebody on the panel wanted to mention this, but did you guys hear about Lance Reddick at all? Some pretty sad news. Pretty sad news. He's been in a lot of things that I enjoyed over the past few years. Obviously both in gaming and in movies. I know being the Destiny player there, Crusader, he a pretty big voice acting part in Destiny, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. Also Quantum Break.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Quantum Break, Horizon. He's Silence in Horizon. He was in The Wire. He was in Lost. He has that famous... If anyone's seen the Eric DeAndre show, he has one of the most famous clips from the Eric DeAndre show. Where he's just yelling, "I wish I was LeVar Burton."
What was Keanu Reeves? What's Keanu Reeves movies that?
John Wick.
He's Sharon, the concierge in John Wick.
Yep.
The Destiny community had a very, very touching send-off for him the past couple days. Players in Destiny's Tower have actually been assembling around his character in like an honor guard with various emotes. It's really, really touching, and he was a very big player of the game, not just a voice actor. He would raid with people. He at Bungie, he contacted them before Destiny 2 came out because there was a raid he had never completed, Wrath of the Machine, and a bunch of Bungie devs went through it, and they were expecting having to carry him, and evidently he demanded them teach him, like just let him do a mechanic-heavy role, and within like one or two attempts, he would understand the mechanic-heavy role, and he would just be rolling and playing with them, and like it was always hilarious because like things like Guardian games, which is just about to come up, where like the different classes compete against each other. In Destiny, he would always be doing he would be doing messages during them because he was the head of the Vanguard. He was the Titan Vanguard, and he was the Vanguard commander, Commander Zavala. And he would always he in game, like as a player, he actually played a warlock. He was a warlock main who voiced the head of the Titans. And so it was always really funny because he would be talking as Commander Zavala, rooting on the Titans, and at the end he would be like, oh yeah, but the Warlocks are gonna win. And he was it's just sad. It's very, very sad that he passed. It was very sudden too, from what I understand.
Yeah, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Damn.
Has Bungie commented at all on
Yes.
the future of Commander Zavala? Are they gonna recast him, or are they gonna do like a Cade 6 kind of standoff?
They haven't said anything yet about like I don't think they'll recast him. Fan sentiment has basically been just use whatever voice lines you have, like that he's already recorded for the game over the past 9 years, and do a send-off for him. Like, essentially, a lot of us are just like, let him go out in like a blaze of glory, essentially, kind of like Cade. Although Cade didn't disappear because like Nathan Fillion.
Well, yeah,
because
Cade 6 was awesome, and when they got rid of the character, it kind of brokenhearted me.
And so, you know, he was probably the most consistent voice actor the game had. Of the original 3 Vanguard, he was the only one who is the original voice, or was the original voice actor to this day. Because I mean, Cade died in game.
Oh, dude! As soon as I heard
Cora. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as soon as because I didn't know who it was when it first went out on social media, and then all of a sudden Commander Zavala, I was like, oh damn,
yeah,
that guy, and I can hear his voice tone in my head right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got one of those voices that were like, it was like James Earl Jones with Darth Vader.
Yes.
And I mean, like, yeah, as soon as I heard, I was like, dude, that dude was like iconic. Holy cow. Like, it was one of those moments where you just sit back and like, holy cow.
Logging into Reddit was kind of wild because it was like the top page and a half. Every subreddit where he was ever possibly relevant was just at the top of Reddit, right? Like r/movies, r/television, r/Destiny, r/gaming, games, r/The Wire. Like they were just sub after sub after sub, because like he was so influential in so many facets of pop culture. He was all over games. He was just recently. Has anyone seen Vox Machina, the Critical Role animated show on Amazon?
No.
He's a character in that. And has anyone seen the Castlevania anime?
No.
He's a character in the second, I believe the second or third season of that. He loves every. He'll be in any, or he would be in anything that like, you know, he felt was fun. You know what I mean? And it is a shame to see him go. It's so sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pilot Shocks, do you have any comments about Lance Reddick? Did you like any of his work in games at all?
Honestly, I don't really follow. I guess I know that he was in America's Book of Secrets, that show, but that's like the only like way I really knew of him. I didn't really follow him like in the video game industry though. So, but yeah, it is very unfortunate for anybody to pass away, especially even in the game industry or anything. You know, it just shows you that, you know, life is just really short. You know, and you just never know. You know, And so I hope they do a really big send off, like you guys were saying, especially in Destiny. That's really cool that the communities come together and do something like that. So that's a blessing. But it sucks for anybody in the game industry to lose a big figure such as he was, as you guys were mentioning in the Destiny series as well.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is I hope that it's very sad. I mean, I just hope that he's at peace and just get
He was in the bad Resident Evil show too.
Yeah, that he
was about the only good part of that show. He was what's his
Carried that show, Wesker.
Yeah, he was Wesker, and it was about the only good part of the show was him as Wesker. I would watch a supercut of just there has to be one of Lance's scenes in that because he played the character really well.
Like I wasn't sure he was supposed to be. I thought he was Blade, to be honest.
No, he was supposed to be or he was supposed to be Wesker in it. It was.
I know. Sorry, I'm not laughing at it. It just just the way that the show was, right? So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was unfortunate. He was in that show, but no, like again, no, don't worry. I'm not laughing at him. Like, it was just the show itself. But
it was bad.
Yeah, bad. But to the man himself, again, I hope he's at peace. And it's unfortunate. Very, very quick. Wow, I couldn't believe it when I saw that. But yeah, guys, I think on that note, we will move on to another topic, and we're gonna talk some Halo. Last week we saw the release of Season 3, Echoes Within. It includes new maps, armor cores, equipment, and many other things, weapons, and the whole lot. It seems like, it's getting a pretty good response from what I've been seeing for the content that was a part of it. But there does seem to be some issues. I've seen, like, different screen tearing, jitters, like a lot of visual issues and frame rate stuff. Guys, I mean, anybody can chime in here. Has anybody spent some time with Halo Infinite Season 3? And if so, what are your thoughts? I don't know, Crusader, did you get any a chance to play the new maps or anything like that?
I did. I just did just a few minutes ago. I played 4 matches.
Nice.
I played 4 matches while we were talking about ABK. It's okay. It's much better than it was. The new, I think it's the basically the DMR without a scope. I think it's called the Bandit. It's pretty good. It fits into the sandbox, into a niche that did not have anything in it, and that actually felt really good. I had some pretty bad desync issues, where like occasionally I would just kind of pop around the map, and that was kind of frustrating. And that's been something that's been in the game since it launched. It's kind of frustrating to see that still in, and like I really am still waiting for both Infection, which seems like it might be coming later this season, based on some stuff that I've seen. And the whole like rank system, the career rank system. That's what I'll come back to it more heavily. But like, I don't know. I was having more fun in Destiny's Trials of Osiris, and I can't stand Destiny's PvP. So, they still have a quite a bit of work to do on Halo, but it is in a significantly better place than it was the last time I played it, which was during Season 1.
Like, yeah, I just booted it up this weekend. Like, I've been pretty busy, but I was happy to finally download the Echoes Within, and I gotta say, I mean, I like yourself, Crusader. I really like the Bandit. I thought that the pacing of it felt good, because it's like a semi-automatic rifle. It fits that whole mid-range kind of motif. I mean, a lot of people I want to compare it to the DMR, and I guess, but it feels very different to me. Like it's like when you pull on it, it has a very hard oomph to it. I kind of want to say, like,
yeah, it's supposed to be the same gun in lore, but it does feel different, like in a gameplay perspective. It feels kind of in between Halo 5 and Halo Reach's DMR, because Halo 5's was like very, very, very heavy hitting. This one it feels like a better mid-range weapon, and also it feels really good because it's designed for what feels like hip firing, like almost like
Yes.
classic Halo.
yes.
Because its scope in isn't really much better than its not scope in. Because it doesn't have a sight. You just pull a little closer to the thing, kind of like when you ADS with the sword in the game.
I don't know why, but like while I was playing the matches and I had the gun in my hand when I was firing, I don't know if you ever played Gears of War, but I don't know, I always had it in the back of my head that it felt like the hammer burst. I don't know why, it just kind of felt like that to me, because the hammer burst has that same kind of, you know?
I can't quite I played the Gears game single player, but I've never actually played the multiplayer.
Well, you would
So
know you would know the hammer burst. It's like it's the Locust, like semi-auto rifle.
Yeah, I know. You're right. It does feel akin to that. It reminds me of some of the Jade Rabbit style scout rifles in Destiny, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Now, obviously you said you played like 4 or 5 matches there. What did you think of the new maps?
I was only playing the big team battle mode because
Yes.
I like big team battle and I like action sack traditionally in Halo, and the special mode they have out only was on the one new map, so I think there's 2 or 3 big team battle maps I haven't played yet. But the new map was actually pretty good that I did play on. I can't think of what its name was. It's the only one in that playlist right now, though. Yeah, it did feel pretty good to play.
I like it. I like it because it has like a mix of outdoor and indoor stuff, and it has a nice variety, in my opinion.
And I was playing the Gutlet. I don't know what it's actually called, but it was the gun game mode.
Okay.
Where basically your team has to get kills with a certain weapon set, and then you move on to the next weapon set, and you move on to the next weapon set.
Yeah, that's called the Escalation Slayer.
Escalation Slayer. That was pretty.
Yes,
that was
sir.
pretty good. I don't know that it fits big team battle necessarily that well. I think that would be better in arena, and I would actually play that in arena. It almost sounds like an old school action sack mode. But I did really like that. I was really confused as to what was going on because I wasn't like reading anything because we were talking. I was listening and I was just kind of playing with my brain turned off. But I did really like that mode. That's probably the second mode in Halo Infinite that I've been like, this is a really good addition to the Halo franchise. The other one is the big team battle mode with the power cells that you have to carry back to your base.
Oh yeah.
Charge it up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
I can't think
about.
what that was called.
Yeah, it's eluding me.
My friends and I call it egg.
Egg.
Yeah, you got to deliver the eggs. I really liked that mode. But I thought overall it was pretty good. And I think I played I played straight up Fiesta on that map, and I really liked the campaign weapons. The unique campaign weapons that you would get for doing the VIP assassinations.
Yes.
Those are in the big team battle Fiesta mode.
Oh yeah.
And as are the upgraded versions of the equipments. Okay. You can get them in that Fiesta mode, and that was really cool.
Yes, I did hear about that. That is nice.
Yeah. So I really like that they're doing more of that. I wish we would get more weapon variants. Like in Halo 5. That was one of the things that I thought was really good about Halo 5 was that you would get the cool variants of some of the guns where it wasn't like a totally new gun, but it had a cool new effect. Because the Bandit was long overdue for Halo Infinite, and I really think they need to work on adding some more weapons to the sandbox. We need a legit shotgun back in the game. not the
Yes.
bullpup.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a few weapons I would love to, see come back. I was always a carbine guy myself, but
Yeah,
I guess the
I
bandit
liked
fills
the
that.
the needle rifle as well.
Yes.
Although I was happy with the Blood of Suban in Halo 5 or Suban or however it said. It was a carbine that was the needle rifle essentially.
Oh, right. Mhm.
But I'm playing Halo Infinite, and I'm still like, yeah, I think I'd rather be playing Halo MCC over that. I'm still at that stage. There's that I'm gonna have to play some of the other modes to see what's in the playlists. But I've heard that they removed a lot of variety from the playlists with the new update, and Mint Blitz was really confused as to why they did that. So I'm very curious as to like why that's going on, because I'm a big fan of like just going into Halo MCC and getting like all kinds of random forged maps and all kinds of different stuff. I really hope that with that community forge playlist, they really start taking those maps from that community test playlist and putting them into like actual arena and big team battle and stuff like that.
Yes, and again, I'm just imagining, whenever Infection lands, oh man, Forge is gonna be insane with Infection.
Yeah. So we okay with talking about some like data mine stuff?
We can hint at some stuff, sure, why not?
There was a cutscene that very much implies Infection's coming. That was leaked online. We won't say more than that. But they canceled. I don't know if anyone saw this, but they actually canceled the VIP was supposed to come this season.
No, they canceled that?
Well, they pushed it to next season, and they said it was to align with player feedback that they reprioritized things. And it looks like Infection's coming. That's why Infection is actually coming this season. They just haven't fully announced it yet. That it's going to come as a mid-season drop. Which makes total sense, because fans have been like, hey, where's Infection? Because Infection is kind of a key kind of game mode for a lot of custom games. Like, a lot of custom games rely on Infection as their base. You know what I mean? If anyone's played any of the classic things. You can get a lot of the custom games to work with scripting and stuff, but, like, if we had Infection, we wouldn't have to script any of it. It would just work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it looks like Infection's the last big thing that I would argue is missing as a Halo player. Like, there's all kinds of game modes that you could say were from like past Halo games that are missing, but like no Halo game has every mode from the last ones. But Infection's kind of core to the overarching like Halo experience, and that's the last thing we're missing. That I do really, really, really hope that does come much sooner than later.
Yeah, I guess I would say Infection and maybe Race, because there is a racing,
Yeah, the race mode, because a lot of the races were designed with Infection originally, but they added race in what? Halo Reach, I think. Either Reach or 4. Wasn't 3.
It might have been Reach.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be good to see from a custom game perspective as well. Because like I'm personally a big Action Sack fan. Like I could spend hours in like game modes like Husky Raid and Ninja Assassins and things like that. That's how I got all of the win achievements in Halo MCC, was playing the stupid Action Sack mode. I love it. Maybe I'll do a community a day one day with fans, and we'll play some Action Sack in MCC. But I think that's something that 5 kind of dropped the ball on. Was we didn't have like for a while 5 was trying to be the hyper competitive Halo experience, and then eventually that kind of stuff got backported into the game. And Halo Infinite started off with more of it better, but I think it really needs to get into a state where like they do embrace the kind of, I don't want to say arcadiness, but the more social kind of game modes for matchmaking.
Yeah, I think that's what really makes the game, like, that brings out the personality of Halo personally, is those community type game modes. And as other Zinc said too, Firefight. I would love to have Firefight back.
Firefight or Spartan Ops or something like that. Firefight would probably be the better one to ask for, because in theory, that could be done on existing maps or, scripted with Forge. Whereas I personally really loved Spartan Ops in Halo 4, how they continued to expand the story with that, while it also being a kind of, an ongoing story thing, and the thing you could play with your friends for PvE, but that was like designed for 4-player co-op. But yeah, the game definitely needs a PvE mode too, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of these cutscenes, of the whole, like, trying to like tell the story with the season launches. It feels really strange, like that they're spending time on that when like they could be spending time on literally anything else. It just feels out of place without there being something like Spartan Ops or a firefight mode or something to pair with it.
Can I just say too, because I was gonna add to that, because I really like this update. It adds the maps, equipment, weapon, armor cores, like different improvements to Forge, and it does address a lot of things. And again, I'm making a very positive statement here, but I do have to agree with Crusader here, because it just to me, I don't like the cutscenes. They look nice, and I was like, oh my gosh,
great. They look great.
And I'm
awesome.
like, look, there's drones. The drones weren't in the game, but they have like an animation here with CGI cutscene with drones, and I'm like, all right, I hope they do something with them. But that being said, though, I would just it's just more of a tease for me for like, hey, can we get some actual like single player DLC or something, right? I mean, I know that's not coming, but I just find it more of a tease than anything, and then getting invested in characters that I don't know, I just don't really care about, if you know what I mean, Crusader. So.
Yeah. And see, like, it feels like they're trying to copy the Destiny story, like, seasonal story structure, without having story missions to pair with it. You know what I mean? And they're really good cutscenes, and they're cool, but it's like, I don't really... I get as much from the Fortnite cutscenes at the beginning, which I also think are really dumb, as I'm getting from the Halo ones, which that should not be the case. You know what I mean? It's just so out of place. And so, I do really hope they still haven't really done much with the... They were trying to establish, like, the cross-core customizations.
Yes.
And it's been like a year since they said that they were working on that, and we literally haven't heard anything since. Minus some stuff with like visors and stuff like that. And so I hope we hear more about that soon as well.
It's like, yeah, they got to do that, and also work on the ranking system, right? So
yes, that and the ranking system are the two, like, kind of like, okay, these are the two things that I like as like a core like function kind of thing that still needs to be done. Especially the ranks aren't actually as important as the cosmetic functionality in my opinion.
Oh no, of course.
The rank is just a number, but like,
Hey, you say that, but people need something to work towards.
You're right, and I still want it, but like the actual cross-core customization, like the customization is so restrictive.
Yes, you're right. I don't really care for it myself. But yeah, I've gone into long tangents about that too. So in the past, so I'm not gonna get into it again. But I agree.
But most of my complaints about the game are gone. Hopefully, the season does only last until June, and they keep to that this time, right? And that is a good cadence of launching content, in my opinion. That we're it's just a little frustrating it took this long to get here. But hopefully they do continue to support this, because who knows what else they would do. They have Tatanka, but Tatanka's going to be kind of like a separate experience, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't want it to go to another like multiple years without like new Halo content again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you, man.
I am happy that they're still kind of supporting MCC too, with like the modding tools and stuff on PC, which is nice.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic stuff for sure. Let's see. Now, Pilot, are you a Halo fan at all? I don't know if you had a chance to check out this Halo update or no, not quite yet.
Absolutely love Halo. Remember my days first playing Combat Evolve on the original Xbox, man. The memories go back. But unfortunately, no, I have not had the chance to play season 3. I do need to get back into it. I know my backlog is just so massive at the moment. It's like, what do I play? It's like a big buffet. But as far as I know, with season 3, I know they came out with like 3 new maps, like 2 little ones and a big one called Oasis. That one kind of caught my eye because it has like the vehicles in the Warthog, the Ghost, the Wasp. And it's around at the map, and you kind of use it at your own disposal and make that playthrough however you want it to be. So that one I definitely want to get myself into. Now, as far as like the 2 little ones, I don't mind, a little close quarter combat every now and then. I'll run around with a shotgun and some grenades and, have at it. So, that's not too shabby. But I do know that they have like new guns and new equipment, which is good. But, like you guys said, I do wish that the customization was more into detail. That would be amazing if it was, but, it's kind of limited. But, I guess it is what it is. But I am very interested in trying the Escalation Slayer mode. I really like the idea of, like having the different weapons and challenging another player and see who comes out the top for that final kill, which at the very end, once you go through all the weapons and get to the very top of like the weapon pyramid, I would say, you get a thing called like an oddball. And it looks like a skeleton, and you're supposed to kill him with that. And then if you kill him with that, you win. So like that sounds really cool. I can see myself playing that for hours, honestly. But as far as like issues on the whole Halo side, I heard of like a 120 FPS bug, and not being able to launch on PC as well. So hopefully, I don't know if they've fixed any of that because I hadn't been on it or anything like that. But hopefully that they can come up with an update for that. But as far as what they've added in the maps and stuff, I'm very excited to try it out. Hopefully the season is not as long, they can move on to other things and get the newer play modes and all that added with the next season. That would be amazing. As far as the single player DLC, that would be a dream. I'm more of a single player guy than I am multiplayer, but I'll still play it. As far as the single player would go, that would be heaven. But I mean, they would make a killing off that if they would do that, and that would be cool. But only one can wish, right?
Yeah, no, well said there, Pilot. Well said. And hey, I'm an avid Halo fan myself. I totally know where you're coming from. Let's see here. Shockley, buddy. I don't know. Have you touched season 3 of Halo Infinite at all? Echoes Within, or is it something you're just gonna be waiting on for now, or just playing other games at the moment?
Yeah, I definitely have not touched it. So, I don't think I've touched it since like at least probably like summer. It's just been going back and forth with a lot of other games. After I think I was waiting on co-op for a while, and then they kind of, when they ended up doing that first delay further back, I just hadn't came back. I think I was waiting for Forge, that eventually came, and I just never made it around to it yet. But I'll definitely get back into this one. Looks like they've added a lot more content since the last time I've definitely played it. So it's going to be hard right now because, especially with, again, like you have Resident Evil 4 dropping this week. So between that and all the other Wolong, still need to get back into that. There's so much other things to play other than just going into multiplayer. Obviously, like I think Pilot mentioned, like if it was some like single player DLC, that would get me more like probably involved. But I've already played a ton of multiplayer in there, so but maybe I'll try to make some time here in the next few weeks or month. So
I think it's worth trying out in any case. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to play. I know you're really looking forward to Resident Evil 4, and I don't blame you one bit. But, hey, you know, if you got a bit of time, a little spare time in the next couple of weeks, you give it a boot up. I think it's worth it. Scent Buddy, I don't know. Have you been interested in checking out Season 3 of Halo Infinite, Echoes Within, or are you just too busy with other things at the moment?
Can I be honest? I've been really busy with other, like, what little bit of gaming that I get in. I've been kind of just, what could I say? The only time I play Halo is when people suggest, like, hey, you want to go play Halo? I mean, the campaign is still in my backlog. I don't know. I just feel like I have not caught the Halo bug in a few years. It's just one of those titles I come and go from at a very leisurely pace. I know I have the desire to go play the campaign because I've played it for like an hour or two. I liked what I played, but I just have all these other games going on, and I just try to focus on stuff that I've already invested myself into. And that's why I enjoy listening to Crusader talk about it. You talk about it. I know like Lemon 108 Dragons really loves Halo. Bomber over on Gaming Beyond the Box, he loves playing Halo. So I know that at least the fan base that they have now is, I don't want to say absolutely happy with the game, but they have at least stabilized it, and they've gotten their fan base to basically have that investment and not be hemorrhaging players. But I mean, in the end, at least in my opinion, when it comes to Halo, only time will tell. I really hope that 343 definitely takes this new direction that they're finding and is able to grow it and nurture it and potentially grow Halo back into what it was back during the Halo 3 era when like literally everybody and their grandmother needed a copy of Halo. So that's pretty much my whole take on the whole thing right now. I need to go probably check it out to at least say that I've checked it out. But yes, I haven't played Halo since the first season.
That's fine. I've been taking my time with it as well. Again, so many games, as somebody said in the chat, so many games, and a lot of surprise ones that pop up too. Not to mention all the sales going on. Guys, any other comments before we move on? Before we close off things? Yes, no? Okay. All right, guys, I think that about does it for tonight. Again, it was really fun hanging out with the guys, talking about some new Microsoft Cloud gaming announcements, plus our thoughts on Halo Infinite's latest content drop with Season 3, and a few other things, of course. I thought we had a really awesome show tonight, but hey, you know, please let us know in the chat if you enjoyed our talk tonight. Then smack that like button, share this episode out, and of course, sub to the channel, as we would love to have you stick around for more. Next on over to the outros, and I'm going to start off with our guest, Pilot Pal. I mean, it was really nice having you on. We appreciate your points of view. Where can all these wonderful people follow you at?
All right, yeah. I'm on Twitter at PilotWinks. If you go on there, you'll see that I'm always posting stuff, gaming news within the aviation. I'm sorry, not aviation industry. Posting stuff within the gaming industry, and then I'll post a few aviation stuff here and there. I'm always, that's my only platform to really, keep within the whole gaming industry there. So I'm always active there as well. Hoping later on this year, launch a YouTube channel like you guys, and that would be awesome. I am greatly appreciative you guys let me on tonight. I enjoyed talking to you guys with some fun topics and getting your guys' point of view. Had some laughs. I was muted, but I had some laughs and some good stuff, and I really appreciate it. So thank you guys, and enjoy the chat and everything.
All right. Well, it was great having you here. Gotta have you back again at some point.
Absolutely.
Moving on down to the TXR regulars, we got Eric Shockley. Buddy, hey, I thought you had a great show. Where can everybody follow you?
As always, you can find me at Shock Nero on Twitter, EZShock on Xbox Live. But yeah, thanks for Pilot stopping by, helping us fill in. But everybody have a good night.
Well said. Moving on down, Mr. Centurion, buddy pal. Hey, great stuff tonight. Always love your opinion on things. Where can everybody find you at?
Thanks, guys. It was a great show. It was great to meet our guest panel member, Pilot Wings. Definitely enjoyed chatting with him. Thank you to everybody out in the chat that tuned in tonight and all those that catch it on the replay. For those interested in finding me, you can find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube, Xbox Live, and of course Twitter. You can also find me every Sunday on Gaming Beyond the Box, 2 hours before this show, and then obviously I'm right here on TXR. And also, if I could also just quickly and humbly say thank you to everybody who has tuned into my channel over the past few weeks. I'm completely humbled and flabbergasted at your support, and I'm very appreciative that you have all taken the time out of your busy days to listen to me drone on, so thank you.
That's okay, man. I've been paying bots to go to your channel, so, you know.
Dude, I'm almost like I've had that thing go like, man, that would suck if you found out that somebody's just botting your channel just for kicks and giggles.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I'm just kidding. But, hey, somebody in the chat's agreeing, hey, great vids on your channel. And, guys, you got to check him out. Check out Centurion1307 on Twitter. He's, past couple of weeks, he's been throwing some fire videos. Honestly, check him out for, you know, again, the various, like, news topics that he's been discussing. It's very interesting and very entertaining. All right, and moving on down, we got Crusader, pal. Hey, wicked stuff tonight. Always on fire. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Crusader3456 on basically every gaming platform, social media platform. I'm most active on Twitter and Xbox. Yeah, good show tonight. Guest, you did a great job.
Much appreciated.
Pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And guys, just to round out the group, of course, you can find my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. I've been doing a bunch of guides, as you know, for Atomic Heart. Yeah, and a bunch of different card pack openings. I got a variety from Magic to a whole bunch of Warhammer Dark Galaxy. So if you're interested in all those, plus a whole lot more, hey, come check me out. But on that note, guys, always good stuff tonight, and we will see you on the next one, next Sunday. Have a good one, guys. See ya.